Hey, what's up everybody? It's Yelo Autosports. So this week I've got a job. This is going to be a really detailed detail, and this is going to be done. Actually, this is my personal NSX. I bought this back in August. Very fortunate to own one. Beautiful car. It needs paint correction really bad. It looks clean in the video, but I'll show you guys much closer all the defaults. So we're going to take this through a whole car wash, clay bar the paint. We'll paint correct everything. So it'll be a full job. The interior is going to get addressed as well, steam dressed. So it's going to be an all-week type job. And hopefully you learn a lot watching this. Remember, if you enjoy the content and you enjoy watching this stuff, please like, subscribe to the page. It's Yelo Autosports, and enjoy. So first step is going to be washing the car, and I will show you guys the way that I do that. So let's check it out. Alright, so let's get right into it. The first thing is I want to fill a bucket with some water. This is going to be where I'm going to wash my mitts. I've got a grid guard at the bottom. This is where the dirt is going to rub off and deposit. It'll sink to the bottom, and then it won't recontaminate. It won't be floating around the water. So I fill that up. I've got my power washer gun ready. This is a 40-degree nozzle. You want the PSI to shoot at about 1500 PSI, no more, as it can damage paint. Any less and it might not be effective for the wash. So let's get those filled up. Okay, so now we get the majority of the power washing done. What the power washing does is we're just trying to push anything off the paint, kind of knock it off the paint. Now there's going to be stuff in the paint that's embedded in there. That's where we're going to come in clay bar, and that'll be step to come. For now, we just wanted to get rid of all that. And now I'm going to use my foam cannon. The foam cannon, what it's going to do is going to create a foam that's going to blanket the paint. It's going to create a lubricant for the paint so that when I wipe it down, I'm gliding over the paint more than scratching the paint. Another thing that it does is the foam will actually encapsulate a lot of the dirt, lift it off the surface, which then I'll be able to clean with the mitt as well as rinse off. So. Alright, so as you saw, we did the wash process using the foam cannon and using a mitt, a regular car mitt, okay? The car mitts were from Detailed Image. They're just, any mitt will do, just make sure it's soft. I choose to go for the ones who are not going to capture too much dirt and filth and leave it in there so that when I have to use it the next time, it's easier to clean, it's easier to maintain. So that's why I go for with those. As far as what we're going to do now is we're going to do paint clay bar. What the clay bar is actually, it looks like a piece of Play-Doh, which I'm sure you've all played or seen with Play-Doh. And that's what it looks like, okay? It's moldable. You can flip it inside out. What that does is actually when I'm going to be buffing and polishing this paint later on, there's going to be a bunch of things that are embedded in the paint. When you drive, things hit your car, they kind of get stuck in there. A lot of times the best way to feel them is you're going to wet it. If you've got a gloved hand, you can run a little credit card across it, you'll hear that it's catching onto things. These are the things that we cannot see. Clay bar is what we're going to use for that. And that's actually going to remove any contaminants that are embedded on the paint. Alright, let's see if we can hear a little difference here. So it's got a little bit of grittiness. Things are stuck on the paint. Let's run our clay. It's a little smoother, and I'm actually finding old spots, such as here. It looks like it's a little bit of residue from when I did a vinyl. We did some vinyls for a rally we were gonna attend with the Minnesota Car Enthusiasts Club, and so we'll have to get rid of those. So looking at the driver's side door, you can just see I've shut off all the lights inside the shop just so I can highlight just how bad the paint is currently. We're also going to look at the rear fender on the driver's side, and same thing, it's pretty beat up. Alright, so it showed you just how bad the paint was, okay? And you can still see it even a little bit here. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my paint meter. And what I'm going to use this for is I'm going to try to gauge how much clear coat is actually on the paint. So most factory clear coats are going to sit around 150 microns. I like to measure everything out just so I can gauge and have an idea as to how thick this paint is. Now this doesn't differentiate between primer, paint, or clear coat, but it still gives me a good general idea as to where we're starting from. Let's go here on the trunk. $137, $150. Let's try the rooftop. $177. Now let's go ahead and try the hood. $127. $153, and lastly, let's do the door. All right, so we know where we're starting from. We're pretty close to that 150 OEM paint that most cars will have on. As you saw, we're not far off from that. So we got some room, but we don't want to go too aggressive, especially on an old paint like this. I'll show you this chart here from NSX. And this is from Acura and Honda. You can see how many layers of paint were put on and how technical this paint job is. And so with this, we're actually going to want to do a paint correction, but we're not going to want to dig too much because we want to preserve that paint. This is 1993, remember. We're almost at 30 years old, and so we want to really preserve.